Late last week, JD Vance appeared on a right-wing podcast, actually with the right-wing podcast that replaced the Dan Bongino podcast, now that he is a part of this administration for some reason. So JD Vance goes on there and was asked a question by the host. Host asked, "You talked earlier about the role of the vice president and how it's different with each presidency. How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it?" To be honest, not an unfair question at all, right? Like, every vice president has different tasks. They have different things that their president wants them to do. They do things differently because different people do things differently. So, hey, you're now in the vice presidency. What are you doing different? JD Vance had the opportunity to actually sit there and explain what the hell he's been doing for the last 2 months, other than, occasionally going out there and saying the dumbest things you've ever heard. But instead of being a grown-up, instead of being a mature and responsible human being that respects the office that they now hold, JD Vance instead decided to imply that Vice President Kamala Harris was somehow a raging alcoholic who would take 4 shots of vodka before every single meeting. And I'm not kidding. Here is his word-for-word response to that question. "Well, I don't have 4 shots of vodka before every meeting. That's one way I think that Kamala really tried to bring herself into the role, is these word salads, and I think that I would need the help of a lot of alcohol to answer a question the way that Kamala Harris answered questions." Kamala Harris, like you, JD, is very highly educated. Now, the only difference is Vice President Kamala Harris is a woman with power, an intelligent woman that had power. And that terrifies little feeble white men like JD Vance. But what terrifies him even more is not just that she was a powerful, educated woman, it's that she wasn't white. All of this absolutely rooted in racism. And I gotta add, that's pretty tough talk and, a pretty serious allegation to level against somebody for a man who allegedly has sex with couches. You're pretty high and mighty over there, right, couch fucker? Maybe you ought to tone it down a little bit, JD, because if we're going to make allegations against individuals, I would say that a vice president who has a couple shots of vodka is better than a vice president that likes to stick his you-know-what into furniture. Yeah, give me the vodka drinker any day of the week. Not that Harris actually did that. So be careful throwing around allegations, JD, because they can easily come right back at you, and yours are far more disgusting. But let's get down to the heart of the issue, right? The word salads. That's all we heard from these dumbass right-wing talkers throughout the campaign. Word salad, word salad, word salad, word salad. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris, did she have verbal gaffes? Absolutely. Does literally every other human being on the planet also have verbal gaffes? Absolutely. So, really not a good talking point, but it is one that, by the way, did stick. That's why Republicans went with it. They repeated it enough, it became true. She didn't make any more verbal mistakes than really any other average politician. Sure, you've got above average politicians who didn't have verbal gaffes hardly ever. Bernie Sanders really doesn't. Barack Obama, I can't think of any. Michelle Obama. Beautifully eloquent speakers. And for Harris, I don't think it was so much word salad, tripping up and, stuttering and stumbling. I think she tried to use a lot of euphemisms and metaphors that just didn't quite work out. I wouldn't call that word salads. I would call it almost talking over the heads of a lot of people. You want to talk about word salads? The Republicans that we have seen in office, this decade, this millennia, have been the worst of the worst. They used to put out daily calendars of Bushisms during George W. Bush's administrations. Like, each day would be a different weird word that Bush randomly made up because the man couldn't complete a sentence to save his life. Donald Trump, the same way. Mr. Kofefe, the guy who can't finish a sentence without going on 8,000 different tangents. The man who, he said like Teslers, right? You're going to sit there and accuse somebody else of having word salads when your boss just days before that went out to the White House lawn and said, "Look at all these Teslers." He can't speak. But again, none of that matters. Because JD Vance's issue with Harris is not the fact that she had word salads. It's that she was a powerful, educated, non-white woman, and things like that drive conservatives absolutely insane. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.